In today's video, we have lots to talk about, including all kinds of playoff action to recap. We had the first couple games take place on Saturday, and we have a quadruple header going on here on Sunday. Many games already completed. Plus, we have some big updates around the NHL, including some players for Vegas who were expected to play in Game 1 of their series. Plus, what's wrong with Willie? We're going to discuss the Nylander situation and see when he might be able to join the Leafs in their series against the Boston Bruins. Plus, we have some trade talk on the offseason regarding the Montreal Canadiens, and could the Flames revisit a blockbuster deal regarding Jacob Markstrom? We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, the NHL 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs are well underway. We've had lots of great action. We got started yesterday and Saturday with two games. Of course, we had the Canes and Islanders, and last night we had the Leafs and Bruins. The Canes pulled off a 3-1 victory over the Islanders to take Game 1 of that series. Of course, they are the heavy favorites to win, but they were largely outplayed. The Islanders actually had a pretty solid game overall. You can tell that they're still kind of lacking that finish ability. They had lots of shots, but could not really get anything much by Freddie Anderson. Anderson was really good again. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes scored some timely goals. The third goal was into an empty net by Marty Necas. Otherwise, it was a pretty tight game. The Canes certainly, like I said, didn't have their best game. They were largely outplayed, but they found a way. Obviously, the Islanders, like I said, they need to be able to finish more of their offensive opportunities if they're going to be able to stand a chance to win in that series. And last night we saw the Bruins, you could say they pretty well spanked the Leafs. It was a 5-1 win in Game 1 at TD Boston Garden. The Bruins forecheck was way too much for the Leafs to handle. The Leafs defense made a couple of key mistakes on a few of the goals that they just can't make in this series. We saw Benoit and Edmondson especially make a couple of critical errors early on, which led to a couple of Bruins goals. Jake DeBrusk continues to feast off the Leafs and playoff hockey. He absolutely loves playing against Toronto. Had a couple of big goals last night. Swayman continued to own the Leafs as well, only giving up the one goal. It was Kampf that ended up getting the goal for the Leafs. So certainly, a case where the top players for the Leafs just were not good enough. Matthews, I didn't think was too bad. He had a lot of opportunities, lots of shots, including one where he had Swayman out of the net and ended up hitting the post. I'm sure he'd like to have that one back. That could have swung the momentum there. But, Tavares needs to be better. Marner really needs to be better. I think fair to say with Marner, since he's come back from injury, that I wonder how much of if he's still dealing with part of it, because it was believed to be a high ankle sprain. And that takes a while before you're feeling fully normal. I thought Marner was just a little bit quiet last night, in my opinion. Of course, no William Nylander, which we'll talk about here a little bit later as well. So overall, the Bruins were by far the better team. They had better goaltending, better defense, and just more opportunistic. Samsonov wasn't terrible. Could he have been better? Yes, but a few of those goals for sure. You definitely can't blame him. I don't know what the Leafs will do when it comes to goaltending. Brad Treliving has told Sheldon Keefe during his interviews with the media before and after the games that when it comes to injuries, lineup decisions, goaltending, that he's basically not to say anything. He's on a complete muzzle, and they're not revealing anything, which I'm sorry to tell you, I don't really think it's going to matter too much if the Bruins know who's going to be in or out of the lineup. They obviously are well prepared and know how to play the Leafs, and if they're going to win, they're going to win. But the Leafs need to come back here and get things going. And obviously, I know a lot of Leaf fans were quick to point out that they lost the first game against Tampa last year. And that's true. They did. They came back. They took care of that series in 6 games. Many of those games were super tight and went to overtime. But the odds are still statistically against you. You really don't want to make a habit of losing Game 1. I believe it's like 69-point-something%. Winners of Game 1 go on to win a series. So you don't really want to end up there. And it's a really tough building to play in. If they drop the second game, then the odds are even more favored in Boston's favor. So we'll see where that goes. We had, like I said, a quadruple header today for the playoffs. Tampa and Florida got started Game 1 early, 12:30 Eastern time. Panthers with a 3-2 victory. Reinhart scores early, continues his hot streak. Brandon Hagel later ties it. The second period doesn't solve a whole lot for them, but the Lightning take a penalty late in the second period. I think it was like 23 seconds left. And then Carter Verhaeghe scores early in the third once they came back and had a fresh sheet to do the rest of the power play. Verhaeghe puts one in to go up 2-1. And then Tampa pulls their goalie with, I think it was around 3 minutes left, trying to get the equalizer. Matthew Tkachuk ends up scoring an empty net goal to make it 3-1. And then after that, they take a penalty. And Stamkos and the Lightning make it interesting. Stamkos scores a late power play goal, but there was only 9 seconds left, so they couldn't do anything more than that. 3-2 Panthers is the final. Bobrovsky, I thought, was really good. Vasilevsky was pretty good as well. Good goaltending duel in that sense. I think that series is going to get pretty heated and pretty physical here. It's already started to be that way, but it's going to probably continue to build. Washington and the Rangers played game one earlier as well. They were there the second game today. I believe that started at 3 o'clock Eastern. The Rangers pull off a 4-1 win. And after the second period, before the teams went off the ice, it looked like it had potential to end up in a big brawl there, but cooler heads prevailed. But I think it was Van Riemsdyk from Washington ended up, I'm not sure what he was doing or saying to the Ranger players, but he ended up getting surrounded, and a bunch of his teammates had to come back on the ice from going off when the period ended to come back and kind of even things out. And like I said, the refs get everybody off the ice, and nothing really came about it. The first period was not the most entertaining. There was no goals. And then in the third period, things escalated quickly with the Rangers scoring 3 really quick goals. I think it was like 2.5 minutes or something crazy. 3 quick ones from Matt Rempe, which got the building just exploding. They love this kid. And, of course, Panarin and VC also score. The Capitals get a late one in the second period to make it interesting at 3-1. But then in the third, nothing more for Washington. Chris Kreider on a late goal from a feed from Zibanejad with a few minutes to go to make it 4-1, and that seals the deal. Ovechkin had no shots on net, which is not something you see very often, but when that happens, the Capitals don't usually win. It's been a rare feat for to keep Ovechkin off the sheet completely with no shots in the playoffs as well. So that's where we stand. Winnipeg, Colorado's underway as I record this video. It's 2-2 in the first period, and we'll see where that goes. That's going to be a fun series to watch as well. And of course, we got Vancouver, Nashville a little bit on later tonight. Some other updates around the NHL. Connor Geekie, one of the top prospects for the former Coyotes franchise, which is now the Utah franchise, has been assigned to the American Hockey League. His junior season is done, so he can go finish up and play with the Roadrunners for the remainder of their season. Geekie will likely be on their team or in the Utah team, I guess, depending on how he does in training camp, but he'll be turning pro next year. So good to see him get a chance to move up here. The Seattle Kraken have sent back Riker Evans back to the American Hockey League as well for their Coachella Valley team in the American Hockey League. Obviously, their season's over now in the NHL. Vancouver today also confirmed they've recalled goalie Artur Silovs as well. He's going to be the number 3, basically the E-Bug. So since there's no salary cap in the playoffs, teams are getting a third goalie to have on hand. That way they already have them there in case anything takes place. From Vegas, we get word from their head coach, Bruce Cassidy. He didn't come out and say it explicitly, but when he was asked for updates on players returning from injury and who was going to be available and who wasn't, he said he just kind of laughed and kind of said that they expected them all to play. So, again, like I said before, Stone, Pietrangelo, Carrier, like they're all appearing ready to come back, which is not good news for Dallas, obviously. And again, for those who want to complain about this, it's not something that the NHL can just change. It's it's in the CBA. It's something that's collectively bargained with the players. There's going to have to be multiple teams and players that want that to change. Like I said before, if they really want to get, technical with this, I think there's an easy solution, and just make it so that whatever lineup they post to play in any particular playoff game, that particular lineup to me should have to be compliant with the cap. So you just add up all their salaries. If it's at or below the cap, fine, let them play. Injury situation from the regular season no longer matters. But, we don't want to make it so that it makes the playoffs worse. You want the playoffs to be the best quality hockey as possible. And if players are, able to come back from long-term injury, you want them to be able to do that, obviously. But at the same time, you don't want it being cheated, and you don't want players, obviously faking anything. And I don't, like I said before, I don't think that's the case. I understand the frustration with Vegas. I really do. But like I said, with Mark Stone, I just really think it's a case where I don't think his health is good. I think the injuries are legitimate. And I think when it comes to some regular season play, he's just not really willing to play through the pain and suffering, the things that he deals with. Now, this spleen injury, assuming that was legit, and we have no reason to think it wasn't, then that's a different scenario. Some of those things can be dangerous to play with as well. So, I don't know. But at the end of the day, the LTIR story is probably going to be at least 2 years before there's even potentially any change, because that's when they'll have to be talking for the CBA and renegotiate. Otherwise, nothing we can do about it from there. But that's what the expectation is when they kick off their series against the Dallas Stars. And in Toronto, the big question everybody wants to know was, what's wrong with Willie? He played in game 82. He was not even on the ice late in the game, so it's not like really anything happened there. It's a mystery. I know Chris Johnson wrote an article today for The Athletic kind of going over what he's heard and what he knows. And like I said, the Leafs are really not saying anything. All he was able to dig up was that on Thursday, which was the day after their final game, game 82 was played, apparently Nylander woke up and had some kind of issue that he wasn't expecting, didn't know about before. Something was bothering him. Whatever it is, it seems to be causing him to be, he's laboring out there. Like, he wasn't obviously seen on the ice for morning skate, warm up, or at the game for game one. He wasn't even, there's no confirmation he was even at the rink for the game as a spectator, even for the game one against the Bruins. In Johnson's article, he said that nobody can confirm if he was even there. He wasn't seen getting off the bus or anything, so he probably stayed at a hotel, which isn't a good sign. He was on the ice today. He stayed out for, I think, close to an hour, over 50 minutes. He was, according to Johnson, he was definitely laboring. Didn't look good, but he said as the time went on, he did get better. He was practicing some one-timers. Apparently at the end, he was doing a bunch of breakaways on Joseph Woll. Went better as time went on, but it's not clear if he's going to play in the game 2 or not. Like, we don't know what the injury is. Like I said, Sheldon Keefe has been pretty much had a muzzle put on him by Brad Treliving. But like with the way things went in game 1, if he can't play, that's a huge loss. William Nylander, amongst all their top stars in the last couple of years, has typically been their best playoff performer. He's been the one to rise to the occasion when they need it most and get that big goal or that big play. And, with him not being there, that is a major loss. I mean, they have, 4 players that are making big money in the forward group that are all expected to produce offensively. And if you get 1 or 2 that are struggling and one that's not there, like I said, the only one who really, in my opinion, had a decent game was Matthews. And obviously his shot wasn't quite on perfectly because he didn't end up scoring. He did hit the post on, like I said, on that situation where Swayman was out of his net. But at the end of the day, Nylander's injury is significant. And if he's out there and he's laboring the way he is, at this point, I would probably be surprised if he plays game 2. Johnson said the only he could dig up was that they're expecting Nylander to be able to come back and play sometime during this round 1 series, but we don't know exactly when. So whatever this mystery injury was or is, we don't really know. And what happened? I mean, I guess it's possible sometimes you take a hit. I've had things happen to me playing sports over the years, and sometimes when something first happens, you don't really even realize it's a problem, and then maybe later through the day or through the night afterwards that something swells up, something ends up being way more sore than you expected, or what have you. So like I said, we don't know, but whatever it is, it's a problem and it's causing grief. So that's a big problem for Toronto for sure. Already without Bobby McMahon too has been a pleasant surprise for them throughout this season. Now, on the rumor front, a couple of things we want to take a look at here. One, there's an article in the Montreal Gazette, and I want to examine the possibility of a Calgary Flames Devils blockbuster deal getting revisited since it didn't happen at the deadline. But a Montreal Gazette article talking about the fact that they fully expect General Manager Ken Hughes to make similar type deals as he has in the past. Like they referenced the Romanoff trade at the draft, which brought them to pick to get Kirby Dach. Wouldn't be surprising if something to that effect happens again. At this point, like they fully suspect, and I mentioned this on numerous occasions, and I'd be shocked if it doesn't. The Montreal Canadiens almost have to move 1 or 2 of the plethora of young D that they have on their roster. If I were Ken Hughes, I would not move Mike Matheson and David Savard. They are the only veterans they have on the back end. They're both playing well. Savard's great on the PK. Matheson has proven to be very valuable, not only in the power play, but on the top pair. Local guy, well-spoken, good leader. Like, there's lots to like about Matheson. And he had a career season. So maybe there's an argument to sell high on him, but I just don't see it happening. He's got a pretty good contract for what he brings. And you need some veterans back there to guide this young team. Like, you need to have a few around. And there are two of the veterans that are on decent contracts, giving them what they need. So to me, they don't go anywhere. So that leaves 4 other spots, right? You've got guys like Gooley, who is probably the best and most established out of that young group. So he's not going to get traded. I mean, they see Gooley as being a future, definitely top 4, if not top pair. Some say he's a number 1 down the road. I don't know about that. But he could be a 2-3 for sure. Definitely really good. I mean, some other guys that I don't expect in this young D group to move would be Lane Hudson, who's, has a potential to be a dominant offensive defenseman. Reinbacher, who was their very high pick last year. I don't see them moving him for sure. I mean, could he play NHL games this year? He probably will, but I don't know that he'll be full-time. And then you got like Logan Mailloux, who just got called up to get his first game at the end of the year. Of course, he's gone through a lot in the minors, obviously trying to get his reputation, to be better, so he didn't even have a chance to play, because obviously he had to be cleared by Gary Bettman in the NHL after his past. And I don't see him getting moved. And to be honest, because of the past character issues, and I know that even though the league cleared him, I don't know that there's going to be much appetite around the league to pick him up just yet either. So you take those guys out of the mix. When it comes to Arbor Jacki, I'm kind of on the fence. I think they would consider it in the right scenario, but I don't think he would be at the top of the list of guys they are considering, because he's a unique kind of player. So that kind of leaves us down to, Barron, Kovacevic, Struble, Harris. Amongst that group, I suspect probably 2 to go. And I would probably put Struble as being the least likely. He seemed to be thriving down the stretch. We saw a lot of Harris and Kovacevic rotations. Barron was down in the minors. I wouldn't be surprised between those 3, even if you take Struble out, that they're the ones that end up going. But could they package, 1 or 2 of them together? Maybe with something else to try to get, another high pick or a top young player like Doc. That's a real possibility. So fully suspect Montreal to target another scenario like they have in the last couple of years, getting Newhook, getting Doc. And this is the area of strength they're going to draw from here to do that. Goaltending is pretty good right now. They got Montembeault, they got Primo, they got Fowler on the way. He looks to be really solid too. I'm not sure when he'll turn pro and leave college hockey, but Jacob Fowler is looking like a real good find for them. They do have, like I said, all these D to draw from, so they're going to definitely want to target another forward to fit into the mix of guys to kind of build with here. So, you've got Doc, you've got Newhook, who they've picked up. Obviously, they got Suzuki, you've got Caulfield. They need a few more of those guys. Obviously, Slafkovsky taking that first overall. He had a nice breakout season. I don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling yet. And then they got to find a few more guys like that to kind of, help this group have more of an offensive touch. They definitely need to score more goals. And it's believed by everybody here that, the Habs are not going to be under pressure to make the playoffs next year, but they definitely want to take a step forward to being more competitive and move up in the standings if they can. At least get out of the basement. It's going to be challenging to do. I know we've seen, whether it's Montreal, whether it's Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, all these teams that are out trying to get in. It's not only do you have to improve yourself, but you have to improve to get over the teams that are already in or hope they regress. And it's not easy. It's a real tough league to do that in. So we'll see. But there's definitely potential there for some D-men to get traded out for sure. And could we see the blockbuster trade revisited between the Flames and the Devils? And there was more talk, obviously, after the end of season media and the remarks from Markstrom that we talked about it a few days ago, him saying that he really didn't know what the future holds and seemed to be pretty, non-committal, if you will, to staying in Calgary. It sounds to me like he might prefer to be traded out. He was willing to go to New Jersey before. We do know that because he does have a no trade, so he can have a say where he goes here. The deal had a high asking price from Craig Conroy, and it's believed he was looking for, from New Jersey, obviously wanted a first-round pick. He wanted a top young prospect in Seamus Casey and a young player who's got some experience. It was either going to be Dawson Mercer or Alexander Holtz. It was going to be a three-piece package going to Calgary for Markstrom. Now, we don't know between Mercer and Holtz which one it was. They must have had an agreement for him to go to Markstrom and ask for his no move to be waived, you would think. I mean, at the same time, part of this as well involves salary retention on Markstrom, and it's believed that's where things went awry here with the Flames ownership not agreeing to do that. Obviously, the Devils later came back and agreed that they would take him without any retention, but at that point it was a little bit late to get something done. So in the offseason, could he be moved without retention? I mean, we saw New Jersey already make some other moves in goal. They acquired Kakkonen and Jake Allen from Montreal. It's believed at this point that Allen, who has more term in his contract, another year, will be either a 1B or backup to somebody in New Jersey next year, and Markstrom would be a great tandem fit for him who could play definitely a little bit more of the games. So that's believed that Craig Conroy is looking for. If he can bring back that kind of package to the Flames and they run with a tandem of Dustin Wolf and Vladar next year, I mean, obviously those goalies have not really proven themselves a lot at the NHL level, so it's difficult to say where things would stand that way. But if they can get Seamus Casey, he'd be a terrific addition on that Flames blue line, and they get a great young forward in either Mercer or Holtz, and then a first-rounder to boot. That would be a phenomenal deal if that is indeed the package going back to the Flames for Markstrom. So stay tuned. We'll see. But obviously there's going to be lots of talk and speculation over the next number of weeks while we have 16 teams in off-season mode here and obviously working on the future of their clubs where 16 teams are still battling it out in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So like I said, it's that time of year where you're bound to get a lot of rumors on the teams that are out, and then the things will pick up here over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks as we get closer to the NHL draft and the end of season stuff when you get more activity. So let me know your thoughts on all today's news and playoff recaps, etc. Let me know your thoughts on that as well, and we'll talk about it further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.